Hello. I am just going to be talking to my friend Mark today, who is a painter, and I know he's not isolating in London, so I'm going to find out where in the world he is and how he's making paintings during this time. Oh, here he is. Waiting for Mark. Hello. Hi.
Olivia,
How are you?
very good. How are you?
I'm good. I'm good. I'm
It's
being
lovely to
hassled
see
because I've started talking.
you.
This is what happens when you start talking after a lot of silence. But yeah, I'm
Nice.
good.
It's good to see you.
Where are you? Where in the country are you?
I'm really lucky. I was in London at the beginning of like all of the COVID stuff, and I'm now in Oxford with Alice and her family, which is
Nice.
really lucky. Like, yeah, I feel very appreciative to be here. So in the countryside.
Very nice. Best place to be right now.
Yeah, it's really nice. So I'm very lucky.
Hmm. We should tell people how we met.
Yeah, we met at the National Gallery of
I
all places
remember.
in 2016.
Yeah, I was just thinking about it earlier. I think it was 2016.
Yeah, amazing. Yeah, I think we met in the queue outside the National Gallery before doors opened at like a quarter to 10.
Yeah, I think you
Um,
were doing a class, and I was just there for myself.
yeah, I remember because like we had that classic, really hilarious situation of you having no idea who I was, but I knew who you were because of Instagram.
Oh,
I think I was like, oh yeah, like I know you from Instagram, but you obviously don't know me. But yeah, so yeah, that was it. And you were drawing this huge painting, I think.
probably.
It was like a market scene or an interior. There was
Oh
like a
yeah,
basket,
it
and
was
I
the
can't believe that
Joyster, the
house.
Florence.
It's in like the corridor. The name
Yeah,
is
it's the
escaping me.
worst place to draw because there's no guards in that room, so you just get constantly harassed
It's a
because people
total
just take
photo.
photos and see what they like.
It's really good training. I mean, it can be quite distracting having hundreds of people just like looking over your shoulder, like, "Hey, what are you doing?"
Yeah, I always find it very strange because in my mind I'm working, and you wouldn't
Yeah,
come up to someone in a library and like peer over them and be like, "What are you doing?"
yeah,
It's very odd, like how it becomes a public act in a way that other forms of work just don't.
yeah, totally. Yeah, I remember. I think I was on my 10th week of the drawing in the National Gallery course, and I was working on a drawing from Velázquez's Boar Hunt.
Hmm.
It turns out apparently he painted very little of.
What a surprise!
Drawn to the hills and the landscape. And Paul Chowdhury was like, "Well, that's hilarious that you chose this painting by Velázquez when it was painted by some guy from the Slade." So it had been repainted, the backdrop. But I spent 10 weeks on that drawing, or 5 or 6 weeks, whatever. But it was quite a big drawing, and I was on the floor with graphite, and I was really getting into it, and I was, and desperately scrambling to try and finish it. And I had this Italian, really hilarious 16-year-old kid come over with a camera and start recording me. Like, so I was on the ground, and he's like started hanging over me with the camera in my face, and I just sort of looked at him like, for one, you're in the way of the drawing, but two, didn't ask for a camera in my face, like. I think it was particularly strange because it was the last week, and Paul Chowdhury was like really like, right, you need to finish this. You need to finish this drawing. So it was quite like tense, and then yeah, to have the camera on the last day was a bit of a shock.
People sometimes, yeah, I think the sort of there's a weird etiquette around drawing in public galleries that you get all kinds of strange. I remember someone sent me videos of like the back of my head once from drawing in a gallery that just sent it through Instagram, and I was like, why is this okay?
My Tinder profile. Just kidding. Like,
Thanks for this.
yeah, I think I just went to the Prado for the first time in the summer past,
Mm.
and I imagine that must have been like 10 times more stressful to draw in because the queues are incredible. Like you
Mm.
must have just had like, yeah, 10 times the traffic of the National Gallery, at least on some days.
It's mad. You get an entire tour group behind you. And some days it was fine and I could like drown it out and I had my big headphones to try and stop people from talking to me. But
Yeah.
other I would just get really angry and just too like people touching the paper and leaning right in, and I would just like pick up the drawing, pick up my chair and just sweep out of the room because I just could not deal with it. Definitely like it was like a very sort of roller coaster experience. You don't get used to it, I don't think. You just have good days or bad days.
How did you find living in Madrid? I was only there for like 5 days or something, but yeah, I was wondering how you found living there for 2 months.
I loved it, and this was about 5 years ago, so it was a lot cheaper than it is now. We were
Yeah,
like right in the center. We could just wander down the road to the Prado. So
amazing.
it was just incredible, and it was like something you just can't repeat, really, that kind of experience. So
Yeah, definitely.
yeah, it's great.
It's a really, yeah, they've got an amazing selection of galleries. There's also the Reina Sofia. And what was there's another one that has
The
quite a good,
Thyssen.
yeah, that was really good. They had like, yeah, it was really nice. I remember, yeah, they did a really good Caravaggio, St. Catherine or something there. Quite nice. It was really quiet, like completely empty. But yeah, I've been really enjoying listening to your chats this week. I managed to tune into a couple. I tuned into you with Charlotte and Nettie and yeah, another. I've got bumped into another one really briefly, but I overheard. Yeah, I was in while you were saying you were meant to be going traveling now. Where were you due to be traveling?
Well, I think my show in London was meant to open yesterday, and then I was going to
Mm.
stay for the show and then go traveling for like a year. Um,
Whoa,
yeah,
amazing! So, like,
my first stop
what do
was
you do
Rome, which
after?
is it's crazy now.
What do you do after?
What would I do after?
What do you do traveling after as planned? Possibly.
So,
Do you have a sort of vague schedule in mind as to where you might go and for yeah.
no, I mean it's all changed now because now we've had to find another house because we're not traveling. So like it's like you're everything sort of you signed up for a contract and like so it's a whole other plan. But
Yeah.
be fine, you know. You can always just live here and travel more. It's not the end of the world.
Yeah, where would be on your top list of priorities for places to visit?
Oh, that's hard. I don't know. I didn't travel as a child really at all, so everything I've done is like as an adult,
Yeah.
which is quite a lot, like within the small space of time, but like comparatively not a lot.
Yeah.
So anywhere ever is interesting. I think to me, I like sort of just seeing what comes up, like what's cheap or what's like a good idea or where the weather's nice, and just be like, great. There's always something
Yeah.
to get out of it.
Affordable. Yeah, that's like a good constraint to have. Then you can
And
just
then you
like
just stay longer, which is
okay.
better, surely.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm desperate to go to Japan at some point, but yeah, financially that would yeah require a bit of saving, I think. So yeah, I think that would be it's a bit of a pipe dream.
That's on my list, definitely.
But yeah, I was also yeah interested when you said a couple of days ago about when you're working in the studio. Some days you'll have podcasts, and some days you'll have films in the background. I was interested what your go-to films may consist of for
Oh,
background noise.
I don't even know. I think I learned not foreign films. That's a terrible idea.
Yeah,
just read the subtitles and get nothing done. But I don't know. I'm not really picky. I think it's just comforting things. I
yeah,
suppose. Sometimes I'll watch like highbrow, and sometimes I'll watch utter rubbish. So.
yeah. Yeah, we watched Bicycle Thieves a few
Oh
nights
yeah.
ago, and it's just absolutely wonderful. I feel like the whole film was just set around this like really long, like real time scene of like the hunt looking for the bicycle, which is just so good.
We did it. We did a drawing from film class with bicycle thieves. So I've got a load of drawings on that.
Oh, cool. Yeah, I'd love to do that. It's so good.
I've got bicycles at speed though.
Yeah, nice.
Not easy.
Yeah. Um,
So what have you been working on?
well, I had this. I had quite a lot of new works on the go in London. I just moved studio. I had previously been working in Camberwell
Hmm.
for about a year, which was really nice. I love Camberwell. So that was really good. But the space was, it was like an open plan warehouse with partitioned walls, which is great. It was really affordable, but something better turned up in Marylebone, which was really nice. So I just moved into this new studio in Marylebone opposite the station, which has been a dream. But I was only really in there for about a month or a month and a half before lockdown happened. But in that time, I had started a series of sort of mid to bigger sort of paintings. One of which was of a battle scene, which was kind of loosely based on Roman reliefs that I came across in September. So I had this kind of battle scene, quite Palo Uccello-esque.
I was going to say, I was surprised you didn't say Uccello when you said Roman reliefs. I was expecting Uccello.
Yeah, well, I mean, yeah, I think mine was maybe kind of fusing miniature painting, like Indian Mughal miniature painting, with this Roman relief. But it's really funny because then once quarantine happened, it was just kind of, yeah, obviously upheaval for absolutely everyone. But I felt I brought some smaller works that I've been working on here to Alice's family's home, and yeah, just a bunch of new works just started. So I feel like, yeah, all of the previous paintings have kind of been put on hold, and I've now got this kind of body of works on paper on the go, which are kind of dotted above me and around me, and a lot of, yes, sort of like a lot of wildlife and kind of thinking about gods and some myths and been doing some like folklore as well, Italo Calvino's Italian folk tales. But yeah, this guy top right over the side of me is I was thinking of him as like it's a grey baboon, but thinking of him as monkey god. And yeah, so quite a varied, maybe like a couple of different bodies of work. Some of animals, and then more paintings that are drawing from discoveries made in the Louvre. So I went to the Louvre for the first time in December, and I fell head over heels with this tiny Raphael painting, which was possibly by his studio. He might not have had a hand involved in it, but it was Saint Michael vanquishing Satan, and like that just completely floored me. It's tiny, like maybe like this size, and I was quite taken by that, and it felt like it opened up a whole world of possibilities. So I felt like it was an invitation to kind of allow my imagination to kind of go a bit wild.
Sounds amazing.
But yeah, so I don't know, quite a mixed bag of things.
Got lots going on. It's hard to like. I think a lot of people finding it hard to get influence from by anything right now, just because you can't go out and spend a day, just looking at paintings or in a museum, or things that you would usually do. For a lot of people have changed, so I think it's good. It's good you've got a lot going on there.
Well, I think I also kind of I plan paintings, or I think of paintings for like years sometimes before I'll get round to making them. So like sometimes it'll just take like quite a while to finally get round to it. So like I've wanted to make a sort of series of portraits that draw from like Flemish primitive paintings, and these they're kind of anatomically curious, so the proportions are quite skewed and a bit unusual, and they have this kind of edge to them. And I've been thinking about those for a few years, and only finally now I'm like, well, this is a great opportunity to kind of open up, sort of things that you've wanted to do. But you've been working on a new series also, haven't you?
Yeah, I'm doing my last one of 5, which are based on a Rubens and Bruegel series on the senses.
Yeah.
But yeah, which has been really fun. It's I was talking to Charlotte about it yesterday, just sort of that thing of I hadn't done something like this in ages, but I kept having the idea and being like, no, it wouldn't look good. It wouldn't look good. I'm like, why won't you just try it? Like, there's
Yeah.
nothing wrong with trying it. So yeah, it's been really
Yeah.
nice to kind of remind myself that I should do scary things more often.
Yeah, I was wondering because if you have any paintings or sorry, if you have any works kind of in your mind for like a long period of time before they are realized. So like, because some of your drawings take like, yeah, 4, 5, 6 months, and in that
Hmm.
time you must just be like overflowing with ideas for new works.
I think I shut myself off from it. I try
Yeah,
not to get excited about the next thing, or I'll abandon what I'm on at the
yeah,
moment.
yeah,
So I have like an idea for the next thing I'll do after the senses, but I haven't tried to visualize it or flesh it out or research it or anything. It's just like oh, I need a piece that sort of does this. Leave it
yeah.
there.
Yeah. I think I've actually seen a couple of those Bruegel Rubens collaborative paintings. I've seen one in Glasgow a year ago, and it's absolutely fascinating. I mean, they were quite maximal. They really had like a punch to them. Like it was
Mm.
a small one, I think. It was just like it might have just been like a still life of some like animals in the distance, and I don't think there was a figure in it, but it was really loaded.
They felt like unfinished business for me, because when I was at the Prado, they only give you like a tiny, tiny, tiny chair to sit on to draw at, and the paintings aren't that big. They're sort of like this, and
Yeah,
they're hung on the eye line, and they're incredibly detailed. So the minute you sit down, you can't see a thing. And
yeah,
obviously, like, it's only so long you can stand like this with your drawing board before your arm feels like it's going to fall off. So I never really got to spend the time with them that I really wanted to. So
yeah.
this was just like it just brewed and brewed and brewed a little bit. And then when I went back to Spain last year with Brian, and they weren't hanging, they were like in store. So I
No,
was just
no.
like, I'm gonna make this series, because I just feel like these paintings are like haunting me.
Yeah. Yeah, that happened to me in Rome. I went to visit a couple of Caravaggio paintings in the Barberini.
Mm.
One was there, Judith beheading Holofernes. The other one was a portrait of Narcissus, and I
Mm.
was completely baffled. I was like, where is it? And I wasn't terribly disappointed because Judith beheading Holofernes was like jaw dropping, but um, yeah, I actually ended up coming across it in a sort of temporary exhibition, and I was just like, no idea that it was going to be there, and I was just like, oh my god, it's such a treat, like, especially yeah, because you kind of just completely forget all about it. You sort of like move on, and then just yeah, kind of these things kind of creep up on you.
Yeah, then they pop up somewhere. It's beautiful. I remember there was a Turner painting of Dunwich. This is like a little watercolor, and I put it into my dissertation when I was on my MA. And it was like in a, I don't know where exactly. It was in a museum in like Birmingham or Liverpool or somewhere. I can't remember
Mhm.
exactly. Small little thing. And I was just like, oh, I'm never going to get to actually see it. Like, I was broke. I was a nanny and I was doing my masters and stuff. And then it just suddenly, I went to an exhibition at Greenwich Maritime Museum, and they had it there on loan. And I nearly
Oh,
cried. Just like, oh,
yeah.
it's been a
That's so
postcard on my
sweet.
studio wall for years, and suddenly it was just there. It was in the flesh.
Yeah, I think the closest experience I have to that of like being really, really moved by a painting was Caspar David Friedrich,
Mm.
Monk by the Sea. And
Oh, that's
yeah,
a brilliant one.
yeah, I sat with it for I think maybe 2 hours, and it was just yeah, it was just jaw dropping because in reproduction you can't really get a sense of the scale of it. So I kind of
Mm.
had it in my mind that it was a small picture, but it was pretty sizable. Like I think memory kind of makes it a bit foggy what the actual size of it was, but it was a substantial painting. I sat with it and I just couldn't believe it. I think there was just real power in the mood of it. Like, it was quite dark and weighty, and the sand was kind of glowing, and it was all just really soft and foggy. And I was really moved by that painting. Um,
I'd love to see more of his work. I think we have what, like, three in the UK. It's a shockingly
yeah,
small amount of Caspar David
I
Friedrichs in the UK.
don't even know where they are. There's I
I think
always
at
remember.
Gloucester, in his hometown. There's a whole museum there of them.
Oh, great, amazing. Yeah, let's go.
Woo, woo.
Yeah, let's go. I'm through.
Bramble, shush, barking at nothing.
I think my introduction to Caspar David Friedrich was actually from Isaac a few years ago, maybe more than a few years ago. But he went through this phase of being really, yeah, like taking little sections from them and then isolating them. But it was this painting of a cliff, two figures on a cliff, and someone looking over the drop.
Yeah. Oh, I know. I think it's quite white, the cliffs, and
Yeah,
it's sort of like a V. Yeah.
yeah, and I think I seen that and was like, damn, that's really good,
Mm,
really
yeah.
smart.
I've got a lot of books and postcards of his stuff. I just think they're beautiful.
Yeah, I remember, yeah, on that same trip when I seen the monk by the sea, I managed to come across an Arnold Böcklin. It's Island of the Dead. It's quite an iconic painting of a boat just arriving at an island, and I think the island is from his imagination, and there's like
Mm.
cypress trees on it, and he did a few versions of it, and it's usually quite dark, moody light, and yeah, so I've seen that was quite an enjoyable visit. It was in Berlin.
Sounds
Um,
good.
yeah, so Arnold Böcklin and yeah, Friedrich, quite yeah, really exciting, really
Yeah.
nice.
Mm. Oh,
Um,
travel.
yeah. I think the last time I seen you was when you were moving house the first
Yeah,
time.
that must be like bang on a year ago. I think it's a year tomorrow. I was moving
Yeah, I didn't
house.
really. Oh my, yeah, it seems like forever ago.
I think you
Yeah.
were like, you had no hair at the time.
Oh God. Yeah, I had my Britney moment. No, I think I just felt streamlined. I was going for a streamlined aesthetic. Yeah, it was fun. And yeah, and did you move your garden again this time?
Yeah, I did. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. I'm just like, it was so
It took
impressive. I
two
couldn't,
downloads just to move my garden.
yeah, I couldn't believe it. I couldn't believe your garden was so impressive. In Scotland, it was such a beautiful garden. It was quite sad lifting it all up, but also exciting that it was going to be reconfigured and put out. But you must have a jungle, a portable jungle now.
Well, the last place we lived, the garden was a bit of a strange arrangement. So I kind of just looked after what I had and didn't like make a massive effort to like plant out a lot of new stuff. So I've got about the same amount, but I might get a bit carried away here because I've already started like trying to tend the lawn and like put down seed and
Yeah,
yeah, so we'll see.
you're quite the collector. I was yeah, really impressed by that because it's like the collection of all of these plants and like cultivating of all of that life. It really feeds into your work because you have such an in-depth understanding of yeah, like all of these plants and flowers. I think it's quite nice. I was quite envious. I had serious garden envy.
If I ever move to another country, maybe you can have my garden.
Yeah, you should put it up for auction. I mean, people will be desperate to have it.
I grow all kinds of weird stuff. I've got so many potatoes at the moment. I just found them at the back of the kitchen cupboard sprouting, and now I've got them all in tiny pots, and they all need repotting. So I have to go out and buy like big potato bags just so I can keep growing them. Which seems like, why did you begin this in the first place?
Yeah, we've been hunting. We've been trying to forage a little bit, like wild garlic and jack over the hedge is a recent discovery. Really tasty, great,
Nice.
really good. Also nettle soup.
Yeah,
Alice and Hannah made nettle soup recently, which was really tasty, really good.
sounds very healthy.
Lockdown foragers. But yeah, I had a couple of questions I wanted to ask you. This is a bit of a double-barreled question, two-sided coin. So I wanted to know if you could, if you could own or buy an artwork by any contemporary artist, who would it be by? And the other side of the question is, if you could somehow live with a historical artwork, who would you choose?
Oh, oh, it's so hard. I like a lot of things that
There's a
people
lot
have
of
just
art out there,
yeah. There's a lot of artists that I love that who've literally died in the last 10 years. So I'd have
guys.
to. Who's still alive that I really, really. I mean, a lot of work by my peers I still want to collect. I mean, it
Yeah.
has such an extra kind of layer of. We've got quite a bit around the house of work that I've collected. Oh, do you know what I want? And do you know what? Me and Brian would both love one of these. A big Kerry James Marshall.
Yeah, he's so cool. He's
Yeah,
absolutely amazing. Yeah, maybe like uh, yeah, all of his work's really good, but I really love the uh, portrait of just where it's just like the eyes like really coming out. So it's like really, really, really dark, and then just the eyes glowing. I think just he's
yeah,
amazing.
yeah. Just incredible. That would be such a work, such like just so good to live with. I think
Yeah.
you just every day just be like, I need to work harder, must try harder. That would be great. But with a historical work, there's just so much choice, isn't there? There's like works
Yeah,
to like motivate you, works to make you think, works to just think.
I
I
think
don't
it's
know.
amazing.
If I was feeling charitable, I would say the black paintings because I know that Brian would love it if I obtained those for him.
Yeah, amazing. Yeah, I was actually thinking about this as well. Like, it would have been absolutely amazing to see them in their natural environment
Yeah,
before they were taken off. But maybe they wouldn't have been, yeah, it might not have been easy to conserve them, but it would have been amazing to experience them in their actual habitat.
yeah. So for anyone who doesn't know, the black paintings were painted by Goya at the end of his life in his house, straight onto the walls, and they are really dark, really intense.
Yeah,
They're about like just like dissipation of humanity, and they're just I don't like they just give you a feeling when you've seen them in real life that it just can't like he understands people in a way that nobody else does, and it's just such strange experience. They don't really look human, and yet you feel like they are people, and that he sees humanity for what it is. It's just mad. They're mad paintings.
yeah, it's amazing also, like, the transformation, like, all of the different periods of his life. Like, I had no idea until I went to the Prado in the summer, but, like, the sort of aristocratic paintings, so like kind of almost like a court painter, and but they also have this kind of like uneasiness to them, and then the witch paintings and the his cartoons as well, like the cartoons in the top floor of the Prado, they're really bizarre. Like the kids playing, so like portraits of like yeah, like kids like playing like cowboys or something, and they're like resting on shoulders.
Yeah,
It's amazing all of these different phases, and then this kind of arrival at these later, really dark, sort of twisted, eerie paintings. It's really fascinating.
yeah, and he revisited things as well. He painted like a scene in a park like early on in his career, and he was hoping to like sell it to the king. And then right at the end of his career, that became the scene that he painted with the blind like mad guitarist in the foreground. It's the same place they think, but like opposite ends of his life, which is just amazing. I
Uh,
feel like to be like prolific enough to start referencing myself like really subtly.
yeah, it's a slippery slope. I think I had this idea like on the drawing year to do that, to start like, oh, I can put this work in that, and I think but then I don't know, like it just feel. I think I stopped doing it because I was like, I don't know if anybody liked the first painting I made, so maybe I shouldn't put it in this new one. I was like, I have to put it in. Like that was, you have to pull it in. Um,
What about you? What contemporary work and what historical work would you take home with you?
um, yeah, it changes from day to day, but at the minute, well, actually, always. I've been really obsessed by Christopheles paintings for years. I love all of his work from like the early works in the 90s and the noughties, and his present matter. I think he's yeah, I think he's really, really good. So I'd love to live with a really large Christopherly painting, like a really like he, yeah, these like really dark, slick, smooth oil paintings, and they're just yeah, really breathtakingly beautiful. So I'd love, yeah, if I could afford a Christopherly, that would be my
Mm.
first investment. And historical work, oof. Um, I think yeah, we maybe a Bruegel, like Bruegel, Fall of the Rebel Angels, maybe.
Mm.
Um,
What about that mad Bruegel they have at Windsor Castle where they painted out all the babies? It's,
oh, the Massacre of the Innocent, or was that a different one?
it's supposed to be the Massacre of the Innocent. So it's that scene, that biblical scene where babies were killed. And in the Victorian times, they did not like
Oh,
that. It all got turned into like chickens and sacks of
yeah,
flour. So
yeah,
it's a really weird painting
yeah.
now.
I didn't look at
Because it's like
that.
a massacre of sacks of flour and chickens.
Yeah, no, I'm gonna pass on that one. I don't think I could live with that. I think knowing the behind the system for
It's kind of
doing
fascinating though, just to look at.
yeah. No, I think yeah, that's kind of yeah, it's censorship. You know, the beginning of censorship. Although I think yeah, censorship's been happening for really millennia. But yeah, that's crazy. Yeah, so dark.
So what sort of plans do you have for your work like after lockdown? Have you got things coming up or things you want to do?
Yeah, I've got a couple of things kind of that I'm working towards. Over the last year, Alice McDonald and I have been working on a lot of collaborative paintings alongside our studio practices. So we are currently working towards a two-person show in London at Wells Projects in
Nice.
Clapham. And for that show, we're going to produce a large sort of painted backdrop and then exhibit our own sort of smaller paintings within it. So I'm thinking small canvases or works on paper or papers mounted on canvases. And I would like to make some ceramic masks, kind of like portraits, so ceramic portraits, as well as small canvases hidden in this kind of jungle landscape. So that's one thing that's kind of coming up. That was meant to be happening in July, but it might be September, it might be later, but that's
Mm.
something that we're working towards. And I'm also I've been organizing a lot of exhibitions through this kind of platform that I'm building called Paint Talk.
I've seen
Um,
that. I didn't know that was you. I thought you just were really into it.
I'm a fan. All kinds of painting. I'm building a curatorial platform which will consist of artist interviews, studio visits, online exhibitions, and physical exhibitions.
Mm.
Also, yeah, I think one of the main catalysts for building the platform was to have an umbrella for organizing fundraising events as well as exhibitions, because I put on a fundraising exhibition in December, and I feel like that was a really important sort of move to make, in that I spend a lot of time in the studio, as like alone and just like working and doing things, and I felt this kind of pull to kind of have a means to step outside of my sort of self-infused bubble, and that bubble kind of sort of to sort of make some kind of contribution to something that wasn't just the work itself. So the platform will be sort of like for fundraising, organizing exhibitions, and other bits and pieces like studio visits and artist interviews.
Mm.
I'm quite excited about that, because it once you kind of get the sort of wheels turning on that, then it kind of takes care of itself. So that's
Yeah.
quite nice. Um,
I
and
think
yeah,
it's good artists when artists get organized. I think it's the best thing because we have these kind of strange like career where you kind of don't have that much control. You're just waiting to be asked to do something. So
yeah,
when we start doing things ourselves, I think it's just brilliant because
yeah.
you can't just sit around and hope for the best all the time. You have to, like, you need that feeling of being proactive and doing something about your own career. It's just, otherwise it's very difficult to get motivated when you haven't got an offer in the door right now or something, you know.
Yeah, action definitely leads to action, and I think
Mm.
yeah, like it's really exciting to be able to yeah, sort of have your hand involved in events and shows and other things because like yeah, I think with the show that Alice and I are working towards, we're gonna have yeah, like musicians sort of invited to come and play in the exhibition, and there's gonna be a whole series of events and things going along with that. So it's really nice to be able to like, right, well, I'm in the studio working from, 9 to 5, whatever, and then a couple of hours in the evening sort of organizing and putting on events and shows and things. And it's really nice because then yeah, you just sort of like kind of cultivate a sort of discourse and conversation sort of circulating around. So that's really fun. I've got a sort of idea for a show that the first sort of big show for Paint Talk. I don't know when it was. It was going to be. I was planning on doing it maybe like in a year, but it's kind of hard to say. But I'm thinking of putting on a show called Damn Good Painting, and inviting artists and gallerists to make up a panel. So they'll make up a panel, and they will, as the panel, be allowed to invite one artist each. But then there'll be an open call for the other half of the allotted slots. So I think that could be quite exciting because then it sort of creates space for galleries and other people who kind of like know like what they like to yeah, like show artists that aren't represented or like a friend of a friend. So it's like, but then you have that mixed with like anyone else. So it's kind of, it's not entirely a free for all, but you have like yeah, just people who are making things who can get involved, and then you can have a certain amount of it that's by invitation. So quite excited about that, but I think yeah, it's a sort of long-term ongoing project.
Yeah, sounds like you got a lot on your brain.
Yeah, I don't know. I think yeah, it's kind of just yeah, doing things. I think populating the days, filling the days,
Yeah.
lots of coffee and lots of grime.
And that's painting.
Yeah, for sure. What about you? I know you were meant to have your show coming up. Do you have any other sort of like plans post all of this
Uh,
madness?
yeah, we'll hopefully have this in September. I think a lot of things were meant to happen over the summer. Things that we hadn't really got into like fleshing out either. So I'm not really sure which things have been like cancelled and which things might come around again next year and which things we might try and fit in this year. So I don't really know. Yeah, I had to fill in that government thing the other day when it was like, have you been negatively affected by coronavirus? I was like, absolutely.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, it's quite it's a sticky time. I think yeah, you can only sort of hope that it will yeah, like all of the sort of negative will sort of breed yeah, creative sort of solutions to problems. And I think yeah, the sort of complete clampdown on like travel is going to have an incredible impact on the environment. So I think there's definitely an opportunity for a sort of more sustainable way of living kind of opening up to us sort of involuntarily. So that's quite exciting because it's so easy, like if you're living in the city, to just sort of get caught up in what you're doing and not think. But like I think a lot of people will now realize that actually I don't need to run about quite so much. I can, like I never thought I could live in the countryside, whereas now I'm like, actually, countryside living might be the one.
It's pretty great, eh?
Yeah.
Yeah. No, it's good. It's good. So do you feel like lockdowns like influenced anything you're doing at the moment, or even just the way that you're working?
I've been really fortunate to have more time to read. Like I feel like in London, if I'd feel lucky to get like 30-40 minutes of reading into a day in London. Like I usually read a little bit of something in the evenings, whereas now I'm able to be a bit more structured about it, and I find that has been quite a treat really. So like I've just been reading quite a lot, and that's really enjoyable. And I think yeah, I wouldn't have been able to do that otherwise. So I'm really, yeah, I think that's really like the main thing that I'm really counting my blessings about. Really, is just having the time to read, which sounds maybe a bit boring, but
Great.
um, but
Yeah.
yeah, I imagine it hasn't really made that much of a difference. I mean, moving house has probably been the sort of biggest upheaval for you, but you're quite used to being like out of the city and like up every morning, coffee, work. So it's probably quite
Yeah.
the same.
Everything. I think it's all. It's been a bit odd because obviously just moving studios and then like obviously the house move and all the things with lockdown and I don't know. It's been a bit. The last couple of weeks have been a bit weird, which is why I decided I wanted to do these talks with other artists and sort of see how everyone else was getting on and what was going on. Because we've got so busy with the house move, I didn't really feel that like locked down until now, and now I'm like, oh, we found a house now. We're not, we're not just spending our days looking for a house. So
Yeah.
now I am sort of needing to find that motivation again because before the house moved, my show hadn't been moved yet, and
Yeah.
now like after it has, so it's kind of like okay, got to kind of adjust to different deadlines and like what you're going to do in the meantime. So yeah, it's been a bit of a funny one, but I feel like I'm getting there. I'm getting like I always think like I'll go into studio and I'll just do a full day from
Yeah.
nowhere, from like a week of house moving or whatever. And it's
Yeah.
never what happens. It takes about a week or two to like work up to doing full days again for me. It just
Yeah.
doesn't work like that.
Yeah, I totally know what you mean. I had like such a shock, really, like upon sort of being here, and like, I'm really lucky we've been able to set up like a bit of a working sort of space, which is really great. But it was quite a shock because like in my sort of regular routine, like I'll be freelance teaching like every other day or something, and I'll be sort of like crowbarring studio time in before and after work. And you have this sort of, yeah, maybe like rose tinted glasses sort of vision of how you actually work. So
Mm,
I'm really fast and furious, but actually that's because I had 3 hours before work and an hour after work. Whereas then when you have a full day open up before you, you're like, you kind of go really hard for an hour and a half and you're like, what do I do now? But I think, you have to kind of re-assimilate and like figure out different working habits. But I think, yeah, I'm quite like, I've never really been one for a routine. Like, I think some days, like 10 hours nonstop is great. And then other days, like an hour here and then do a bit of gardening and then half an hour here. For me, that's quite good. I think like for me, almost the less time I have touching a painting can sometimes be better, but it totally varies, like, I guess.
mm. Yeah, I in the last year I've gotten into the pattern of because Brian goes away for long stints, my husband, so he'll be gone for like a couple of months or something. So I'll work like a maniac for like 2 months, get loads done, and then he's back and I'm like, yeah, I'll do a little bit here, a little bit there, la 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 la, and he goes away again, and I work like a maniac again, and now we're both here, so I have to like remember that I do still need to make work.
Yeah. Yeah, it's quite interesting, the total shift. And this, I think you said also like earlier this week that if you had a deadline, if you knew when lockdown was going to just end, then it would be so much easier because you would just like go for it. You're like, well, I've only got another like X amount of time. But yeah, that kind of like unknown of how long you really have kind of can sort of play a part on it. But I think, yeah, I think a lot of people seem to be saying like, it's okay to not be like constantly active, and I think that that is really reassuring because you can't just sort of perform at like 90-95% of your sort of efficiency levels all the time, and I think you do just kind of have to allow yourself sort of breathing space to sort of come away with fresh eyes. I think that's really
Yeah,
great. I think
and
we have it all as
it's very
well.
different from working a job out of the house or like a job that's not making art. I suppose like let's say I worked in an office and then I wanted to make art in the evenings. I would find a way to like shoehorn it in, and then I suppose it almost seems selfish to be like just having I haven't lost the making art time. I've almost got too much of it, and
Yeah.
it's just the constant guilt like you should be making, and it's like you feel bad about it because you're like, well, you've got extra time, why haven't you suddenly become, ludicrously prolific? And actually, sometimes I think it's the pressure of needing to go out in 2 hours to do this or that that actually made you more productive in the first place.
Yeah, definitely. I think, yeah, just like going for a walk, getting fresh eyes is literally the best thing ever. Like there's yeah, like at the drawing school we'd always like look at Bonnard and like his drawings, and that was really exciting. It was really exciting to realize like Bonnard, his working habits of getting up in the morning and then like going into studio doing a little bit of painting, and then just when things are maybe not going that well, then you just like go out and walk the dog, and then you come back and you do a little bit more. And I think that kind of, yeah, like there was that show of Bonnard and Tate, like I don't know how many months ago that was now. It must be almost a year, but it was
At least over a year ago. I remember I went with Becca, and I was still living in London. So yeah.
yeah, that's crazy. Time is just like, yeah, I've completely lost my grasp of time. Like, but that show was really interesting because the paintings really look so fresh and they look really quick, but they would take like up to years. Some of them would just be kind of in circulation and being touched up for like years. I think that's, yeah, really nice. Just that like these things are sitting about and it's just like like very gradual, and it's not kind of conforming to the rat race ideology of like crazy production levels.
But I think it's nice when artwork doesn't scream like, I took a really long time, you know, because you just feel the weight of like the effort. You don't want to be staring at something thinking, God, that looks like, oh,
Yeah,
you know, you want to be looking at it and just enjoying it for what it is. Like whether so it's nice when it has that freshness or just something about it that distracts you from how long it took. I always find it depressing when people look at mine and go, that must have taken a very long time. And you're like, oh, I wanted you to like the image, you know? It's disappointing that that's your initial reaction.
It's quite interesting though, because then that opens up a conversation of time, at least, you know. And I think that, like, I mean, it is sort of, you want people to be completely immersed in everything, you know. And I think that, you know, like to really take it in and to be lost in it. But I think it's quite good also that people realize that it does take a lot of time, because then, yeah, as frustrating as it is, it's kind of like that's a solid currency of like, oh well, you know, there's a lot in it. So like people are maybe more willing to spend more time looking if they appreciate how much time has been invested in it. Maybe.
Yeah, maybe it's like an exchange in some way, you know. If they feel like you've put a lot in, they'll put that bit extra looking into it.
Yeah.
If that were true.
Yeah. I don't know. I think it's quite a strange one. I never really find myself thinking about how long paintings or like any work takes really, because sometimes something really good can just take like 20 minutes. You can just you can do some, you know, you can find something in like a tiniest amount of time and it could look like it took ages, and vice versa. Sometimes something that looks really simple is taking like, you know, months, and it's just quite interesting.
I don't think about it that much. I really don't. I think also just because even if you just walk, like say you're walking around an art fair or something, it's not really what springs to mind because you're just wondering like, because you think there's so many different mediums and ways of working and like the ways it could have been produced that I don't always initially assume that person physically labored over it for, you know, months and months.
Yeah, yeah, I really enjoy like coming across something and just having no idea how it was made. Like just looking at it and hearing like what, like I think that's maybe like part of my attraction to like a lot of Christopher's paintings, especially the early paintings, is because they're so layered and built up. So there's like a whole area of like resin and like patterns like drawn in through it and like weaved up, and then like all of like these sort of like different like textures and glitter and dung kind of like all added in, and then you have on top of that the image, and it's just kind of, yeah, I think like
Yeah, I think that's good. I think it's good when the medium doesn't completely define the artwork. Because you get that sort of the artwork, some artwork you see in fairs now, which is like, but it's made entirely of denim, and you're like, cool, but is it actually good? You know, and then it comes up like every year,
I love it too.
and you get the same little mention in an article, like, and there's a work that's made of denim, and you're like, why is it here? Like, or something else. You know, there's always like some kind of novelty medium that people are more excited about the fact that it's made of that than they are of what is actually an image of. And surely what it's made of should be like secondary. Like you look at it, you go, oh wow, and then you're like, what is that? Whereas if you walked up to it immediately and went, denim, may as well be some Levi's on the wall, really.
I think we had that conversation in person together a couple of years ago when I think you had worked in two shows or two like stalls in the London Art Fair.
Mm.
And I remember just that, but I find art fairs so difficult in general. Just like there's just too much, I just I can't do it. Like a museum or something, it's a lot easier because you can just go in and you can have a seat and you can say, oh, I'll go and have a coffee or whatever. But like art fair, you do feel like right, I have to see it all or something, which is just not feasible.
Possible.
Mm,
I don't know. I never feel bad if I miss things, really.
yeah,
If I go around an art fair and I miss something, I'm not really heartbroken.
yeah,
Because usually I don't pay to get in. I'm quite cheeky. I'll like find a way to get in without paying.
yeah,
Like, because galleries are always giving away tickets if they think you're going to buy an artwork. So you're just like email the gallery like, I'd love to come and see your stand, and they'll send you
yeah,
a ticket, and then you go and look round. And then if you miss something, you had a nice day out. What does it matter? You saw something you liked, hopefully. You know.
yeah, yeah. Um, but yeah, so I remember during one of your talks this week, you were asking people what they were looking forward, if people were looking forward to seeing anything in
Mm,
particular. Um, do you envisage a trip to London on the cards after lockdown?
yeah. I mean, I'm gonna have to. I mean, I don't know how else I'm gonna get all my work framed or like. I mean, everyone's gonna have a show like the minute that
Yeah.
because so many shows got instantly taken because of the timing of it. Things get. You think about like the first Thursday of the month, it would have been like a week after that. A load of shows would open, and then like we would have been told to go home. Like a week after that first Thursday of March. So
Mm,
all those shows that just opened and were only open like a week or 2 weeks, like Ella Walker's show and like Ishbel Mayakov's show and things like that had just opened. And I don't live in London, so I was like, in a week I'll go see it. They all got
yeah,
closed, and hopefully some of them
yeah,
will be open again. And plus, there's all the people who had things that were meant to happen over the summer. So it's going to be mad. It's quite
yeah, it will be
exciting.
absolutely
Mad.
amazing. Yeah, I'm looking forward to this. Yeah, I think that's one thing I really miss is like just like going on like an opening crawl, just going to loads of openings. I'm
Mm.
looking forward to that.
What's the most private views you've ever done in a night?
Oh, I don't know. I've never kept track. I think probably done maybe not even that many, maybe like four or five.
Yeah, I think that's about the same. But I was pretty proud of that. I timed it. Because some of them open at like 5:30 and some of them
Yeah,
open at 7:30. So you're like, okay.
yeah. If you get a couple of scores with each other, that's quite good. But yeah, I don't know. Maybe like four. I think I went to see an opening of yours, and I think yeah, that was a couple of years ago, and then I went over to see Florence Hutchins at Delphian Gallery. Remember that was we're frozen.
Me or you?
I think it might be my phone's fault.
My phone says you frozen, but now you're moving again.
Oh, well, back in the day. But yeah, I can't wait for openings, and yeah, I hope that everyone who had shows like sort of stalled or postponed, I hope they happen again because it's just an absolute headache. You spend all this time working towards a show, and then it's just yeah.
Yeah,
I've
yeah. If it was
already
the first year, we could work together. So
yeah, I'm looking forward to going to see all the shows.
I love how
Mm.
loud the birds are on your microphone. It's like they're like right there.
Amazing. Yeah, I think they're having a nice time. They're outside. They're singing just for you.
Excellent.
Yeah, they're always pretty active out here, and it's pretty nice. I really can't complain. They're great company.
Yeah, no, it's nice. I like hearing it in the morning.
Yeah. Have you any wild plans for your Friday night?
Oh God, is it Friday today?
I think it might be.
Yesterday we went for a walk in the park, which was lovely. Um, so that was good. And then maybe tonight I think it's like make something nice for dinner. I think dinner's become like the holy grail like of the
Yeah.
day, making dinner. Yeah, yesterday I made a cheesecake, so we get to cut into that today because that obviously has to sit.
Whoa.
That's ready.
What kind of cheesecake have you made?
It's like a baked vanilla one, so we can just top it with whatever. you want to top it with, kind of thing.
Handsome. Yeah, that sounds great. I'm envious. What's the most exciting dish you've made in lockdown?
Oh, that's a good question. I mean, it's been hard to get, like all the ingredients you want to make things. So I think we made a couple of fun ones right before lockdown. But Brian did this amazing like prawn gnocchi the other day that was like insane. And we were both thinking about it like for days afterwards. Like, damn, that gnocchi was good.
You're always quick enough to have a couple of lunches out of it, I think.
Mm.
So, yeah, I think the most exciting dish I made wasn't that exciting, but I was really proud of a sag paneer. I made a sag paneer and maybe like a roasted sweet potato curry or something. I made like two. Yeah, it might have been like a dal and a sag paneer, but I was quite pleased with it. Like blood, sweat, and tears. Got to do it. Got to do it right.
Sounds good.
But it was pretty tasty.
We're gonna have to do a like a private view crawl when all this is over.
Yeah, I know, and I really want to come and visit you and Brian as well because I've wanted to come and see you for like the whole last year and then just didn't get a chance. So I'd absolutely love to hang out. I imagine we're gonna have a lot more time on our hands.
You have to. We've one of your prints, and we were talking about it when we were hanging artwork when we moved in here. Your is in a lockup in New York right now.
Cool.
We're like trying to figure out a way to get it back.
Oh, wow. Yeah, I bet it's having a bit of a party for one.
Although I think it's that adult limited edition Kerry James Marshall poster that I got Brian. Just like we really wanted to hang them, and we were like, they're still in New York. Like, the one we got of yours that was like the aeroplane and the naked bathers.
Yeah, I think I called that one Under Her Gaze, the moon. I think I was listening to a lot of Ariel Pink during that when I made that. Some Ariel Pink. But yeah, I forgot about that print. That was quite nice. I was really excited by that print at the time. I was like, oh yeah, this is like there's something I need to pursue in this. So yeah, I need to have a look at it again.
Yeah, when we get it back, you can come round to see it.
Yeah, we can have a cook-off. We could do like come down with me.
Come see our Motley collection.
Yeah, that sounds fun. Yeah, I'm kind of building a little collection now as well. I think the most recent purchase I made was Holly Mills. Bought a little Holly Mills painting, which is really nice. But there's loads of things I'd like to buy as well. But yeah, need to get back on the hunt.
Yeah, swaps are always good. That's how I got a lot of the art in my house, just swapping.
Yeah, God knows I've got enough of them. House coming down with paintings.
So we have it. We have it when you've got a show's worth, and this is all over.
Yeah, for sure. But yeah, well, I hope you have a lovely evening.
Thank you. I've got to walk my demanding dog.
So sweet. Yeah, thanks for.
Do you want to see her?
Yeah, please.
Bramble. Bramble. Come here. Come on. Come say hi to Mark.
Bramble. Hey! Nice. That was quite the attack. Oh, what a
We've had her a year yesterday.
Hey?
We had her a year yesterday.
Oh, so sweet. Yeah, Bramble's definitely a looker.
She is. She really is. She's tired right now. She's like, why did you wake me up?
What are you doing to me? I was trying to have a little sleep.
Yeah, in her bed that's far too small for her, but she's very attached to it.
Aww.
Get down.
She's tired.
Yes, we'll have to catch up after all this is over.
Definitely. Yeah, love to go on an opening crawl and we can go and look at some paintings. A little visit to the National Gallery or something.
Go see that Velasquez that's not a Velasquez.
Yeah, I think they might have taken it down or moved it at least. I absolutely love it when they just rehang things. I just love it. You're like, oh, I have no idea where anything is. Great.
Well, we were given a tour of the National by the guy who curates their contemporary collection, which must be not a lot to
Yeah.
curate. But he
Yeah.
said paintings are literally like arguments between the curators. Like, it will go on the wall, it won't go on the wall. There's one of like a very it's like a male angel with a massive bum, and like they like fighting over that one, whether to have it up or down. So I always find it interesting to see whether it's been hung and like, you know, whether it's in
Yeah.
favour this month.
I don't know what I'm doing. Sounds like he's got a lot of junk in the trunk, but I don't know if it's not ringing any bells. I need to go on the hunt, look for him.
Yeah, it's like a falling angel viewed from behind, obviously. It's not a very nice painting. I had to agree with them, but
Yeah, get it
somebody
back.
likes it.
Yeah, I'd love to go to visit like the warehouse, like put in a request to go and visit some works that are in storage. I've been meaning to
Mm,
do that, and also with like the V&A and British Museum to go and try and see some like miniature paintings
mm.
and works on paper that aren't on show. That's like the top of my to-do list, which has been there for years. So maybe after lockdown, that's a good time to do
Yeah,
that.
yeah. I did that. I registered with Tate to go and see their works on paper, but I never. I started making a request for a Gainsborough, I think, to go see a Gainsborough, and they were like, "No, we don't have that." And I was like, "It's on your website," and we didn't really like get any further.
That's wild.
Anyway, we'll let you get on with your evening.
Yeah, I think it's time to go for a walk. It's getting pretty toasty in the conservatory, so yeah, gonna go stretch the legs.
Take
But
some
yeah,
fresh.
it's been really lovely catching up. Thanks for having me.
So
Really nice
nice.
to see you. Yeah, hugs to you and Bramble and Klaus and Brian.
Thank you. I'll let them know.
Look forward to seeing you.
Okay. All right. Well, take care, and I'll hopefully see you soon.
Yeah, hopefully see you soon.
Bye.
Ciao. Bye.